Coming back right now to the way you start building your career in architecture as well and the studies, and of course you've been reflecting about architecture probably as one of the leading personalities on this, both reflecting as well, looking at new trends, looking at new architects, which you've been both curating and as well researching. How do you see the kind of the present state of architecture internationally?
Well, the funny thing is that architects are seen as powerful, and they are, because they build structures that determine your life and the way cities work. But at the same time, they always feel powerless, because apparently all commissions come to them already with this definition of what they should be. So people like Kulas are always complaining about being powerless and not really determining the end results of how you produce buildings and cities. And so it's an ambiguous situation, which I think leads, as you said, to some complex situations, because at the same time, architecture is more and more demanding in terms of complexity. So you have to lead very big teams that involve engineers and all these consultants so that the building effectively works. And at the same time, you may be subsumed by this pressure and this economic pressure to just respond in a very technical way. And so if you lose that edge of still being creative and still being expanding in terms of the ways architecture can offer new possibilities to the city, then you might become what you call a corporate architect that is no longer doing anything original and new, and therefore not contributing to the history of architecture, but just plainly repeating formulas and responding to situations in which you are involved in a very blunt and basic way. So I see this tension, and I even see the fact that eventually, like much in the art world, the architecture field could actually split in two at certain points. One that is fully commercial and corporate, and the other one that is a smaller world of architects still trying to advance the discipline and participating in biennials, doing exhibitions and doing smaller buildings that really feeds the wider field. But it's the one that actually is where the thinking is being done. But at a certain point, I see them splitting and not talking to each other anymore.
Let's look at the human architecture, human society architecture. You work with some of the leading cities, some of the leading organizations, and as well, you create independent organizations like Experimental Design that is still alive and doing fantastic work in the fields of architecture, design, and creative arts. So how did you see, from your experience, dealing with these institutions? And I want to make a difference between these creative institutions and then like society, mainstream institutions like cities, like Porto, capital European of culture, what you've been trying to do with these 19 cities, because there's a completely difference.
Well, I do see, or I did see at that time, that younger, independent, more energized cultural groups could actually produce some change. And that is for experimental design. For instance, we were agile enough to collect all the budgets that we needed to produce something that was fresh and that introduced a vision of a different Lisbon at that time. And we even convinced the mayor of the city to invest in it at 10 times the scale that they were investing before, just because Lisbon needed that kind of approach that was not purely institutional, which in Portugal means super conservative. And so you do need that freshness and things being shaken by younger people. So I always think that you have to find ways to sustain that and to provide an economic means for younger people to produce something, even if they risk failing. And so this is like unicorns. You will invest in 10, 20, and then there are 3 that will make it. And so your money is well invested because those 3 thrived. This is what you have to do with culture if you want to have a vibrant culture surviving in cities. You will also have to invest considering that you may lose a part of your money, but those who will thrive will actually compensate for the other ones. And if you don't bring this mix to cities, you'll see cities that will look empty and boring, even if they have the supposedly right mix in terms of technology and in terms of what you're offering in terms of services and so on, because it's not only about commerce. It's also about the sense of bringing talent to that city and actually having an environment that is friendly to talent. And talent, we must recognize, it's much of the time is in younger people that don't have that much resources and that will have to go to wherever they can live that is inexpensive and interesting, and and where they can find soulmates. And this is a quality I see in Lisbon, coming back this weekend from Paris. Of course, Paris is super attractive for younger generations in search of an opportunity. It has always been as a big city. But if you come to Lisbon, it's so much more welcoming at this point. I mean, you see the Web Summit people starting to arrive at the city, and you see they're fascinated because the city is simultaneously laid back, it's beautiful, it's warm by the end of October. So it looks like a paradise. Of course, it has challenges, and we have to overcome these challenges. And this is also a political must. But the fact that you have a warm and welcoming environment is absolutely fundamental if you want to make a city function, especially if you're making new cities, because we have seen too many of these experiences from Dubai to China of cities that were promised to be like the wonder, the next big thing, and then they are totally empty and nobody came. So you really have to be very careful to think that you have to instill and create this environment that is welcoming. And this involves also addressing issues like inequality. I mean, an unequal city can be attractive for a while, like New York. It's a profoundly unequal city. But because there are still opportunities based on merit, people do come, and some, enough of them are still successful to make others want to come. But if you cut that possibility, then the city will become unattractive. And actually, while I was there from 2012 to 2016, you saw a lot of the artists going out of the city to LA and to San Francisco because the environments were more welcoming than actually New York. And so you can lose even that cities that have by tradition maintained that kind of grasp on attracting younger people. You may lose that from one moment to the other.